tonight, we travel back to the year 1850, a year without light switches, without memory foam, and without a single digital sound. The world is quieter, darker, and much heavier. You are not in a city apartment or suburban house. You are in a wooden cabin, or a brick farmhouse, or a tenement with thin walls. And in this place, night arrives like a weight. It wraps itself around your body, and you are expected to sleep. But sleep here is not gentle. It is not easy. It is something you must earn. The mattress beneath you is a crude rectangle stuffed with straw or horsehair. There are no coils, no springs, no orthopedic design. Just the rustle of dry plant matter every time you move. Its cover might be burlap, coarse and itchy, or faded cotton stained with years of use. You feel every bump. Every shift sends a whisper of dust into the air. You adjust your body and try not to think about what might be crawling within the seams. Sleep is not luxurious. It is something you fall into, like a well. Your blanket is made of wool, heavy, thick, scratchy. It smells faintly of lanolin and wood smoke. It does not stretch. It does not give. It traps heat, and when it gets wet, it becomes twice as heavy and 3 times as cold. If you are lucky, there is more than one. If not, you curl tighter, legs to chest, arms folded beneath your chin. The cold seeps in through the floorboards and settles between your ribs. Your breath becomes visible in the room. The blanket is not comfort. It is armor. There are no pillows as you know them now. There might be a small sack of feathers, lumpy and uneven, or a folded cloth, or nothing at all. You lie flat, head on wood, or on your arm, or on folded clothing. Your neck complains, your shoulders ache. But no one talks about neck support. In 1850, you are lucky to have a place to lie down. You are luckier still if your space is not shared with others. Beds in this era are often communal. Parents sleep beside children, siblings pressed together like books on a shelf. The room is lit by nothing. A candle stub may burn for a while, but oil is expensive. Wax is precious. The dark becomes whole. It is not the dark, you know, broken by standby, lights, or blinking electronics. This is the kind of dark that moves, that breathes. Your eyes adjust, or they don't. Shapes shift. Shadows stretch. You listen more than you see. Every creak of wood is amplified. Every gust of wind outside feels like a whisper at your window. You do not close your eyes out of comfort. You close them out of necessity. The sounds are everywhere. A mouse on the wall, the snore of someone nearby, the ticking of something old and unwinding, insects, wind, drips, nothing mechanical, nothing artificial, just the world, slowed, just life, ongoing. The floor creaks, even when no one walks. Your heartbeat feels loud, your breath, a disruption. You learn to lie still, very still, because stillness is part of rest. And in 1850, rest is as much an act of surrender as it is a function of the body. And then there is the silence between sounds, the long, patient silence, the one that stretches out and makes time feel like honey, thick, slow, golden, but heavy. You lie in this silence, hoping for sleep, knowing it may not come soon. You are not distracted by screens. You are not lulled by music. You are alone, fully, with yourself and the room. In 1850, the dark is not empty. It is full of everything you've been trying not to hear. Asterisk, you lie down and feel the straw shift beneath you. It rustles, sighs, resettles. Straw does not forget the last person who lay here. If their weight, their warmth, their dampness, it holds. Memory in the form of flattened patches and crooked ridges. Some pieces are sharp, poking through the worn cloth cover. Others crumble into dust as you shift your position. There is a smell, faint but distinct, Earthy, dry, a little sour. It's like summer fields left too long in the sun. Your body adjusts slowly. There's no softness here. It's no give. No cloud-like cushion to cradle your bones. Instead, there's a negotiation. You offer your spine to the shape of the bed. The bed offers resistance. You find an arrangement that hurts less than the others, and call that comfort. The mattress creaks with your breath, sigh of dry plants and woven threads. It groans, not from age, but from being full, not of padding, but of time underneath. The cover, the straw, is restless. Fleas may be nestled in the corners, waiting. You will not see them, but you will feel them. A pinch behind the knee, a nip at the ankle. You scratch without thinking, without waking. These are part of the bed now, like the wooden frame or the handmade quilt. Till you know them the way you know the sound of your own breath, not with affection, but with acceptance. 'Cause in 1850, the bed is never just yours. Sometimes feathers are used instead of straw. Goose down, perhaps. It sounds luxurious, but the feathers clump. They poke through the fabric. They shift to the edges and leave your back on wood. Okay? You plump the pillow again and again, and still you find the same hollow in the center. Comfort is elusive. It drifts like mist. You chase it through the night and never quite catch it. So you lie awake, your hands still, your mind alert, your body stiff. The mattress is shared. A spouse, a sibling, a child, perhaps even a guest. You feel their breath before you hear it. The heat of their skin moves toward you like fog. Is little room to turn. Every motion must be negotiated, every shift approved by the silent choreography of sleep. You face outward to avoid breathing each other's breath, or you face inward for warmth. Neither choice is right. Both are simply what must be. Beneath the mattress, the floorboards groaned. You imagine something crawling between the cracks. Cricket, a beetle, the thin tail of a mouse. You do not look. There is no light, and even if there were, what could you do? You tuck your legs tighter and trust that whatever is beneath you will stay there. This is the agreement of the night. You will not disturb the dark if the dark does not disturb you, and mostly it keeps its end. Above, the ceiling is close, slanted, low, beamed with timber. It creaks even when there is no wind. It's settling, always settling. The roof moves in the night, a breath, a whisper. You imagine the rain, even if it's not falling. You imagine the snow, even if it hasn't come, because the ceiling holds more than wood. It holds the memory of storms, of sun, of winters endured. You lie beneath it, smaller than you feel, and wait. Asterisk, the blanket over you is not soft. It is thick. It is heavy. It smells faintly of sheep and firewood. Its edges are worn, frayed, stiff with years of use. You pull it close and it resists. Tea does not drape. It settles, as if it chooses where it will lie and how much of you it will cover. It is a quilt, perhaps, or just a length of cloth, but it is the only thing between you and the night air. Inside the blanket, warmth grows slowly. Your body begins to understand the rhythm of sleep, even if your mind does not. But the blanket does not warm easily. It traps heat only after it. Traps you. Cue into yourself, knees drawn, arms crossed, waiting for the first sign of comfort. It comes late, and only in pieces. A warm shoulder, a protected foot. Everything else remains in negotiation with the air. If the blanket is shared, there are rules. Silent, unwritten, but known. One cannot tug too hard. One cannot roll too far. You each hold an edge like a treaty. There is no excess fabric, no corner left untouched. Someone coughs, you feel it in the ripple of cloth. Someone turns, the air rushes in like a thief. You pull the wool tighter and pretend not to shiver. Sometimes the blanket is damp, not soaked, but not dry either. It has absorbed the mist, the breath, the past, and it clings like moss, like memory. You cannot shake it off, cannot dry it out. You sleep beneath it because there is no choice. And you learn that sleep does not require comfort, only stillness, only surrender, and a little warmth in the right place. Blankets carry stories, not written, but woven, stitches that hold a grandmother's hand, colors that have faded with washing or never held dye well to begin with. They were made for someone, maybe not for you, but now they cover your shoulders and pretend to be your own. You thank them silently, not for their beauty, but for their burden, for holding you while you hold yourself. Sometimes beneath the blanket you itch, not just from the wool, but from the day, from the dust, from the air. You scratch slowly, as not to wake anyone, and you wonder if this is sleep. This is what it feels like. The tension between warmth and discomfort, the balancing act between relief and restlessness. The blanket weighs more than its fabric. It weighs with history, and in the morning, the blanket does not move with you. You leave it behind, heavy, folded, silent. It waits. It does not dry in the sun. It does not air out, simply rests until the next night, till your body returns, until you offer it your weight and it answers, not with comfort, but with presence. Sleep in 1850 was not soft. It was held. The floor creaks before your feet touch it. Old wood, warped and weary, speaks in its own language. A slow moan, hesitant crack. Each board carries the memory of every foot that walked before you. Children tiptoeing, mothers pacing, dogs scratching. Every step is a story, and tonight the story is you, barefoot, half asleep, moving through the dark. You don't need to see the boards to know them. Your feet remember the cold of certain spots, the loose plank that dips too low. It's the knot of what that always presses just under your heel. In the quiet of the night, even the smallest touch sounds loud. Your breath becomes part of the rhythm. Inhale, step, creak, hold. Sometimes a mouse joins the dance, soft scurry, a rustle behind the wall. You pause, you listen, it passes. You don't see it, but you feel its presence. You hope it's a mouse, not a rat, not a snake, not something else that slips through the night unseen. You press your foot down slowly, as if softer steps make you invisible. The floor speaks to the house. Each sound travels. A whisper here becomes a murmur there. Someone turns in another room. A cough, a sigh, perhaps even a word. You don't know who's awake and who's dreaming, but you know you're not alone. In 1850, sleep is never truly solitary. The house breathes with you. The wood listens. Sometimes you stay still just to keep the floor quiet, not out of fear, but out of reverence. The silence feels thick, like snow falling without wind. You don't want to break it, so you hold yourself still, balanced on a single board, waiting for the night to welcome your next step. It never does, not really, but you move anyway. There are stories in the floor, scratches from boots, corch marks from a dropped ember, a dark stain near the hearth, older than memory. No one talks about it, but everyone knows it's there. When you walk at night, you avoid it, even in the dark. Not because of what it is, but because of what it might be. Eventually, you lie back down and the floor quiets. It forgives your presence. It settles again. Tea. But even as you close your eyes, you hear it in the distance, a soft shifting, a low groan. The house doesn't sleep. It waits for morning, for footsteps, for someone else to remember it still lives beneath them. Asterisk, the air in your room isn't still. It never is. It moves slowly, like a tired guest wandering without purpose, lest it smells of coal smoke and boiled potatoes, of wool and old soap. It clings to you, slides across your skin, seeps into the blanket's weave. You breathe it in, heavy with dust and echoes. It isn't fresh. It isn't clean. But it's yours. Sometimes the wind finds a way inside, through a crack in the shutters. Through the space beneath the door, a sudden draft brushes your cheek. Like a ghost's breath, you shiver. Not from cold, but from memory. The house has many ways of reminding you that it is older than you are, okay? And older than most of your thoughts. There is no scent of lavender here. No candle wax melting gently. No filtered warmth. It's just the truth of the night. Earthy, honest, a little sour. You smell the past in the air. The fire burned hours ago, but its ghost lingers. It left behind a warmth that has turned to ash. You pulled the blanket higher, not for warmth, but for comfort. You wonder what time it is. There is no clock ticking, no hum of electricity, only the slow beat of your own heart and the occasional groan of the walls. You imagine the hour to be somewhere between darkness and deeper darkness. It's a time when even dreams grow still. You try to sleep, but the air keeps talking. It whispers of rain, far away, or of frost climbing the window. You do not open your eyes. You do not need to. The night tells you everything without asking. It's a pressure behind your eyes. Okay. Weight on your chest that isn't heavy, but isn't light. You wonder if it's a blanket or a thought. And let it be. Sometimes, in the dark, the air changes. It becomes colder, or warmer, or sharper. And you wonder if something entered the room. A change in pressure, a shifting presence. Okay. You tell yourself it's nothing, but the feeling stays. You curl tighter, you wait. The air grows still again, but you do not forget that moment. Eventually, your breath sinks with the room. Slow, measured, deep. You are not asleep, but you are not awake. You are in between, floating in a space built of air and silence. And in that space, you finally begin to rest, not because the night is kind, but because it has accepted you as part of itself. Asterisk, the walls of your room are thin, made of plaster and lathe, sometimes wood. They don't block sound, they record it. You can hear someone cough 3 rooms away. You can hear footsteps from the attic above. The walls remember conversations you didn't have, secrets you didn't ask to know. They're always listening. Sometimes you think the house is speaking to itself. A creak here, a shift there. It's a sound of settling, but it doesn't stop. Loops, a soft thump, a quiet groan, and then nothing. For a moment, you think it's over, and then it begins again. A rhythm not quite human, but not entirely nature either. You hear things that may not be real. A name whispered, a chair dragged, a door unlatching, though no one walks through. You tell yourself it's the wind, night, the old bones of the house. But a part of you listens more closely, not with fear, but with curiosity. You want to know what the house remembers? The walls are covered in paper, patterns faded by candle smoke, tiny flowers, stripes, sometimes peeling, sometimes damp. The paper is thin, but it holds more than decoration. It holds time. A child once drew on it in charcoal. A message was scratched with a nail. You run your fingers over the bumps, silent braille. If you place your ear to the wall, you might hear breathing, or music from another room, or silence so deep it becomes sound. You press closer, listening, waiting, hoping for something, anything, but all you hear is your own heartbeat, bouncing back. The wall doesn't lie. It just doesn't answer. At night, the walls feel closer, the room smaller, as if the darkness expands outward and the walls push inward. You curl inward too, becoming smaller, matching the space. It doesn't feel like prison, not quite, but it doesn't feel like freedom either. It feels like waiting for morning, for sound, for something else. You close your eyes, and still the walls speak, not in words, but in presence. They are here. They are always here. And in 1850, that is enough. You sleep not in silence, but in story. The story of every night before this one, and every wall that has held it. Asterisk, not every sound in the night belongs to the house. Some come from outside, from the fields, from the road, from the barn. You hear them faintly through the cracks in the walls. A distant clatter, a whinny. How? Maybe it's the wind. Maybe not. You listen. You hold your breath. You wait. The clock tower chimes in the village. A bell echoing through trees. 4 chimes, maybe 5. The sound is warped by distance. Time stretches between each ring. You don't count. You just listen. Each tone a reminder that time passes even when you can't feel it. Especially then, sometimes. You hear footsteps, not inside, but on the porch. On the path outside, slow, measured, a crunch of gravel, a scrape of boot on stone. You imagine someone passing, a traveler, a stranger. You imagine they don't stop, but you don't know. You stay still and wait for the sound to fade. Insects sing outside your window, a chorus of crickets, a single lonely katydid. The rhythm. It's soothing at first, then overwhelming, then soothing again. You match your breath to it. Inhale with the chirp, exhale with the pause. Nature becomes your metronome. It's the dark, your lullaby. A barn owl screeches, sharp, sudden. It breaks the rhythm. You sit up slightly, then lie back. The owl is gone, but the echo of it stays. Stillness afterward is louder than the scream. You wrap yourself tighter, not from fear, but from awareness. The world outside still moves, even when you don't. Some nights, you hear nothing. No owl, no wind, no bugs, just silence, heavy, almost solid. You wonder if it's too quiet, if something has changed. You strain your ears, you wait, and then a single sound breaks through. A dog barking, a cow lowing, a branch falling. Relief. You close your eyes, let the sounds come and go, then build your world, not with pictures, but with echoes. Teen 1850. You don't sleep alone. The night has its own voice. And tonight, it speaks gently, just enough to let you drift. Your blanket is thick, heavier than you remember. It rests on your chest like a memory of warmth, not warmth itself, made of coarse wool. It scratches and clings. You pull it tighter, and it resists. There's no down, no softness, no feather. Feel, just fiber spun tight by hands long gone. It smells faintly of lye, smoke, and something older. It was once brown, or gray, or maybe a faded green. Now it's all of those things at once. The color of sleep, of soil, of old weather. You don't question it, you accept it. Okay? In 1850, comfort is not expected. It's tolerated. Okay? And if the blanket itches your skin or catches on your calloused heel, you let it. Sometimes, when the wind cuts through the boards, okay, the blanket is all that stands between you and the night. But even then, you feel the cold reach through the weave. It finds your shoulders. It whispers against your knees, takes its time. Cold in 1850 isn't a presence, it's a guest, and it stays as long as it likes. You curl tighter. You make yourself small. You imagine the wool is thicker than it is. You tuck your chin, press your hands between your legs, and wait for the moment when your body makes heat faster than the air can take it away. That moment never fully comes, but it comes enough to close your eyes. The blanket is heavy because it is soaked with time. Every night, wrapped in it, adds another thread, another story. It was your mother's, or your father's, or your siblings before the fever. You don't know anymore. You don't need to. Its weight is its memory. At the night, it remembers. You doubt. Sometimes, a flea lives in the fold. A tiny itch, a bite behind the knee. You slap at it, miss. Try again. Eventually, it gives up, or you do. Either way, the night continues. You shift. You scratch. You return to stillness. The blanket sighs with you. Not comfort, not torture, it's presence. You don't dream of silk or linen. You don't imagine sheets that cool or conform. You accept the wool. You thank it silently for staying, for covering, for remembering how to be a blanket even when the cold is winning. That's what sleep in 1850 is. Not peace, not rest, but resilience beneath the weight. Asterisk, there's a shadow by the dresser. You've seen it before. It's always there. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, it feels closer, thicker. It doesn't move, but it feels like it should. You tell yourself it's just the shape of the coat hanging from the peg, or the chair's leg, or the candle stub on the edge. But the candle stub hasn't been there in days, and the coat was moved to the door. So what is it? You don't know? You don't ask. You pull the blanket up a little higher. You close your eyes, then open them. Again, the shadow hasn't moved, but it hasn't disappeared either. That's the part that matters. In 1850, you don't talk about ghosts, but you believe in them. Everyone does. The silence of the night makes belief easier. You don't need proof, need presence. And sometimes, presence is all you have. That shadow is a story waiting to happen. You don't want to hear it tonight. Not now. Sometimes, the shadow seems to breathe. Just a slow shift of darkness, a stretch, a sigh. You tell yourself it's your eyes, playing tricks. But your eyes have seen enough to know better. There are things in the night that do not fear. Blankets do not care about prayer. Do not make noise when they move. You think of the stories. The woman who walks the barnyard, the soldier who never returned, the midwife who drowned in the well. You heard these tales whispered at the hearth, told with smiles that didn't reach the eyes. You didn't believe them, till the shadow stayed. Too long, you turn to face the wall. You breathe through your nose, count your fingers under the blanket. 1, 2, 3. You don't look back. If the shadow moves, you won't see it. If it speaks, you won't answer. The rules are simple. Acknowledgement is invitation. Silence is survival. The night passes, slow and careful. Eventually, the light shifts. The shadow softens. You look again. It's just a chair, or the coat, or the candle. You don't care which. You survived the darkness. Not because it left you alone, but because you didn't blink. And in 1850, that's enough. Asterisk, you wake, unsure if you slept. Your body says yes, your mind says no. Something happened between midnight and now, but it left no trace. It's just the heaviness behind your eyes and the dryness on your tongue. You try to remember. A face, a word, a shape, but nothing comes. The dream is gone. In 1850, dreams are different. They're not written down, not analyzed, not posted on boards or screens. They're personal, private, often forgotten, or too powerful to speak aloud. You remember feelings, not details, a coldness, a weight, a joy so brief it feels made up, and then you forget again. Some say dreams are messages, from spirits, from God, from the weather. You don't know which, but sometimes you wake with a phrase in your mouth. One you didn't invent, one you don't understand. You whisper it once, then forget it. The dream takes it back. The morning doesn't want it. Your bed feels different after a dream, warmer or colder, as if someone else had been lying beside you. Do you know that's not possible? You hope. You run your hand across the straw-stuffed mattress, the blanket, the sheet. It's still yours, still the same, but something lingers. It's the echo of sleep. You sit up slowly, let your feet touch the floor. The boards creak, the air shifts. The room is awake now, but part of it still dreams. You feel it in the corners, in the pause between bird songs. Something's waiting to return to silence. You let it. You move slowly, so as not to disturb it. Outside, the world is still gray. The day hasn't fully arrived. Neither have you. You are still half in the dream, still holding something you can't name. It will fade soon. The chores will take it. No, the sunlight will scatter it. But for now, it rests beside you, like a cat, like a thought. You don't chase the dream. You respect it. It came, it stayed, it left. Maybe it will come again. Maybe it won't. You won't write it down. You won't speak of it. In 1850, dreams are ghosts. And like all ghosts, they visit only when they choose. And only when you forget to look for them. Asterisk, you shift your weight and feel it something hard, thin, and sharp just beneath the straw. A stray kernel, maybe a stone, maybe a splinter. You think about removing it. But that would mean getting up, lifting the mattress, disturbing the bugs and the stillness. You stay where you are. You adapt instead. Your shoulder adjusts, your hip rolls. The object presses deeper, then fades into the background. In 1850, discomfort doesn't demand action. It demands patience. You learn to sleep around the pain, to let it settle, like sediment in a jar. It becomes part of you, quietly irritating, but familiar. The mattress is not a cushion. It is a holding place. Straw shifts nightly. Some of it breaks. Some of it molds. Oh. A mouse might nest near your feet. You never check. You never ask. The mattress is a mystery wrapped in fabric, stuffed with weeks, with winters, with everything that sleep forgets. There are no springs, no memory foam, just the memory of harvest, of fields long plowed. Straw once fed a horse. Now it supports your dreams. The fibers still smell like soil when it rains. They crinkle when you move. They remind you that rest is grown, not manufactured. Sometimes you find seeds, whole ones, smooth and solid like teeth. You roll one between your fingers and wonder if it could grow. You press it into the floorboards and forget it. Maybe in 100 years, someone will find it and wonder about you. Or maybe it will stay a seed forever. You don't turn the mattress. You don't clean it. You add to it, one handful at a time, one season at a time. When it sags, you fold an old shirt and tuck it under your spine. You don't complain. You don't need to. You have slept on worse. The mattress is enough. Enough is everything. Tonight, the grain shifts again. It finds your rib. You smile into the dark. The grain will win. The straw always does. And still, you sleep. Because in 1850, you don't chase perfect. You learn to love the shape of your discomfort and call it home. The room hums, faint and steady. A sound not made by walls or wind, but by life too small to see. The crickets have returned. They live in the cracks, in the corners, beneath the floorboards. They chirp, not for you, but you hear them anyway. Their rhythm marks the hours better than any clock in 1850. Time is not kept in numbers. It is kept in sound. The bell, it's a crow. The kettle's whistle, it's a cricket's song. You learn its patterns. When the pitch lowers, the night deepens. When it stops, you know someone has entered, or something. Silence is rarely just silence. You never see them, not clearly, but they are there. Black as soot, quick as thought. You once tried to catch one, stopped singing the moment you moved, vanished the moment you looked. It taught you something. Joy cannot be held, only heard, only felt. Their music is thin, almost sharp, like a needle threading the dark. Sometimes They sing in chorus, sometimes alone. One note, then two, then three. Each chirp a stitch in the night's fabric. You pull the blanket tighter, not from cold, but to be part of their rhythm. You wonder what they sing about. The heat, the dirt, the moon. You wonder if they remember you from last night or last year. Perhaps they do, or perhaps their memory lasts only until dawn. Still, their song stays with you. Long after you forget the words, they don't care if you listen. They don't care if you sleep. They only care about the sound. And the sound never lies. It doesn't need to. In 1850, the crickets are your lullaby. Not crafted, not planned, just present. Just enough. You close your eyes. Let them carry you. Their voices are thin boats on a still river. You drift, not far, just far enough. The floor creaks. A breeze moans. Still they sing. Crickets don't. Fear ghosts. Only silence. K. So they keep the night alive. Asterisk, there's a sound above you. Hollow, deep, like someone exhaling through stone. It's the chimney. Even without a fire, it breathes, pulls the night through itself, sucks in cold, sighs out soot. The house shudders with it, quietly. You listen. You always do. In 1850, chimneys are more than vents. They are lungs. Okay. Inhale your heat. They whisper your secrets to the sky. Sometimes they groan. Sometimes they moan. Not from ghosts. From pressure. From memory. Brick remembers flame. Smoke lingers longer than you think. The fireplace below is dark now. Ash rests like snow. You didn't clean it? You never do. Ash is protection. Keeps the room from freezing too quickly. You smell it still burned pine. Damp moss. The last breath of yesterday. You think of warmth and weight. The chimney lets wind in. Just a little. A suggestion of air. Not enough to freeze. Just enough to remind that the world outside is moving. That night continues beyond the walls. That breath is shared between home and sky, between now and always. Sometimes a draft finds your neck. A finger of air, cold and soft. You don't flinch. You acknowledge it like an old friend. It visits. It lingers. Leaves. The chimney draws it back. Always hungry. Always hollow. It is never still. Even when the house sleeps. You've heard stories of birds trapped inside, of soot that shifts, of voices that travel down the flue. You've never seen a bird, but once a feather drifted into the hearth, pale, perfect. It landed without sound, like a message with no sender. You keep the chimney, its cracks and all. You let it breathe. It keeps your sleep honest, reminds you that not all walls protect. Some only listen, some exhale. And when you dream through brick, through smoke, through stone made soft by time. Asterisk, your blanket is heavy tonight, not from the cold, but from time. Each thread holds years, each patch a memory. You don't remember who made it. Perhaps your grandmother, perhaps someone before her. It doesn't matter. The blanket knows you, even if you don't know it. It smells like wood smoke and lavender, or maybe dust and wool. You can't quite tell anymore, okay? The scent is woven in, like the pattern. Faint checks of blue and gray, faded from the sun, from hands, from life. You wrap it tighter, and it wraps you back. There's a tear in the corner, a small one. It began as a thread pulled by a cat. Now it's a window into the stuffing. You once meant to fix it, never did. The hole has become a marker, a place. Your fingers drift to in the dark. Okay? Silent landmark of sleep. In 1850, blankets are not bought. They are built, stitched from scraps, made of coats worn thin, shirts outgrown, pieces too valuable to throw away. Nothing is wasted. Everything is repurposed, even dreams. You think of all the other dreams this blanket has held. Sometimes, in the quiet, you imagine the people who slept beneath it, the babies rocked in it, the hands that hemmed it. You wonder if they, too, stared at the ceiling and waited for sleep. You feel less alone when you remember them. They make the dark feel shared. The blanket doesn't warm quickly, takes your heat, stores it slowly, then gives it back. That exchange is the ritual, the ceremony of rest. You never rush it. You know it will happen. Eventually, the blanket teaches you patience, teaches you surrender. Tonight, you whisper to it, not with words, but with breath. You exhale and let it press against your ribs. Let it hush your thoughts. Let it hide your fear. It doesn't speak, but it stays. That is enough. That is love, in the quiet language of linen and time. Asterisk, the floor creaks. Not loudly, just enough to notice. A groan beneath your bed. A whisper from the hallway. You listen. Always listen. In 1850, floors remember footsteps, even when no one's walking. They echo things long gone, long buried. Your house is old, not ancient, but old enough to hum with history. Every board tells a story. Some tell it twice. You once found a nail that looked hand-forged. You left it where it was. You don't remove memory. You let it rust. In peace, people say, ghosts walk here. You're not sure if it's true, but you felt the stillness shift, the weight of someone else's silence. The floor gives beneath you sometimes, as if remembering someone heavier, someone sadder, someone who never left. You don't fear them. Not really. They don't want anything. They just ... remain, like dust, like dreams. They drift between walls, between breaths. They don't rattle chains. They don't slam doors. They sigh. They press gently. They share space at night when the wind is calm, the boards speak clearer. They pop with cold, stretch with warmth, or echo a rhythm you didn't make. You wait for it. You respect it. The dead deserve rhythm too. Their steps are soft but steady. You once asked your mother about the sounds. She said it was just the wood settling, but you knew better. Wood doesn't settle every night at the same hour. Wood doesn't settle in the shape of a lullaby. You nodded anyway. She needed to believe it. Tonight, the floor creaks again. The same place at the same time. You don't check. You don't move. You say nothing, but inside, you whisper, good night. Not because you're scared, but because you're not alone. And because some ghosts deserve kindness, asterisk, shadows, in 1850 are thicker than shadows now. They have weight, shape, texture. They stretch farther because the light is smaller. One candle cannot chase all the darkness. It only carves it, makes islands of safety and seas of black dot. You watch them move, slowly, not like animals, like thoughts, sliding across the wall, changing with the flame. The curtain shifts, and they lurch. The fire pops, and they shrink. They are not random. They follow rules only they know. There's one by the door, always there, long and bent. You've checked for what makes it. Found nothing. No coat, no hook, just the wall, but the shadow remains. Every night, unchanging. It doesn't scare you anymore. It's part of the room now. Shadows in 1850 are storytellers. They repeat tales without words. A rocking chair becomes a woman in grief. A broomstick becomes a soldier's rifle. You see things that aren't there, and sometimes they're more comforting than the things that are. When you blink, they blur. When you stare, they sharpen. They never stay still. Even when you do, they are not ghosts, but they've met ghosts. You can tell. The way they pause before the fire. The way they gather in corners, whispering softly. You once waved your hand to break them. They reformed instantly. Shadows don't mind being interrupted. They expect it. They welcome it. They are patient, okay? They know you'll sleep eventually, and they'll still be here, telling their silent, flickering stories. So you watch them until your eyes grow heavy, 'cause shapes lose meaning, until the room becomes ink. You trust them, 'cause in 1850, the shadows don't hide monsters. They hide memory. They cradle sleep, and they only ask to be seen. The ceiling above you is not smooth. It's not painted. Toile, splintered, irregular. You've stared at it so long, you know its pattern. Each not like a face, each line like a road. It's a sky that never changes, and yet it never looks the same twice. There's a crack near the middle beam. You trace it with your eyes every night. Sometimes you imagine it growing. Other times you believe it shrinks. It's not threatening. It's familiar, like a wrinkle on an old friend's brow. It holds secrets. You wonder who built it. Were they tired? Were they cold? Did they ever lie beneath it? The same way you are now, listening to the same night sounds. You like to think so. Tet. It makes you feel connected, like you share sleep with ghosts of carpenters. There's a nail that reflects the candlelight. Only one, a pinprick of gold in a sea of brown. It flickers, blinks, almost like an eye. Watching, not judging, just observing. A silent guardian that's too old to speak, but too loyal to look away. In 1850, ceilings don't hide wires or insulation. They hold heat, they trap sound. They creak when the wind presses against the house. They groan when snow piles on the roof. They are alive in their way, breathing, stretching, settling into time. You hear something above, a mouse, maybe, or just the timber shifting. It doesn't matter. It's always there. Movement in the wood, life in the beams. The ceiling is not just above you, it's around you. It holds the night like a bowl holds water. You stare until your eyes blur, until the lines become rivers, until the nail becomes a star, until your body becomes light. The ceiling does not answer your thoughts. It holds them. It gathers your questions like dust and keeps them safe until morning. Asterisk, your bed is not a throne. It is not grand. It is 4 posts, 1 mattress, and a promise. The wood is scratched, uneven. The joints creak when you shift. It complains, but it never breaks. Like you, it survives through persistence, not perfection. In 1850, beds aren't for comfort, okay? They are for rest, survival, escape. Yours was passed down like names, okay? It is heard weeping, laughter, prayers whispered into blankets. It knows more about your family than any photograph ever could. There's a mark near the left post, a bite from a child's teeth. Yours, perhaps, or a cousin's. You don't remember. The bed does. It remembers everything. Every fever, every nightmare. Every early morning when you tried to slip out without waking anyone, the slats groan beneath. You, not loud, not angry, just honest. They are old and tired, like the bones in your back. They carry your weight without complaint. They've never asked for thanks, only that you return each night and lie still. The sheets are not soft. They are rough, washed in cold water, dried by wind, folded by hands that never stop. They carry the scent of home, smoke, soap, maybe cloves. The smell doesn't fade. It grows, deepens, becomes a lullaby. Sometimes you dream of a better bed, one with pillows that don't flatten, with springs that don't sing. But when you wake, you're here, and somehow you're thankful. This bed knows you. It holds you like a memory holds truth. Unpolished, unedited, you turn over once more. The mattress sighs. You close your eyes, and as the house exhales around you, The bed, faithful and flawed, cradles you once again. Not because it's perfect, but because it never needed to be. Only present. Go. Only here. Asterisk. There is a clock downstairs. It ticks. Always ticks. In 1850. That's the heartbeat of the home. You don't see it now, but you hear it. Through the floor. Through the silence. Through yourself. Take a step. You can't stop. It doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't pause when your thoughts race. It keeps moving, measuring, judging nothing, celebrating nothing. Just dividing the dark into pieces too small to see. It is cruel in its honesty, but kind in its consistency. You counted the ticks once, made it to 100, then lost track, then started again. The counting didn't help you sleep, but it helped you drift. Away from worry, away from the itch, the cold, the ache, came into a rhythm older than dreaming. The clock chimes on the hour, not loud, but final. T, a low bell that feels more like a sigh, like the house remembering something sad. You don't always know what hour it is, but your body does. Flinches when it hears it, then softens. Talks in 1850 are not decorations. They are commitments. Someone welded earlier today. That someone is asleep now, but the clock continues. Even when you forget it, even when you hate it, even when you need it. It never stops. You wonder what time it is, but not enough to get up. It doesn't matter. You're not chasing hours. You're letting them pass over you like a river over stone, each one smoothing the edge of wakefulness, slowly carving sleep. The ticking becomes background, then lullaby, then silence. Not because it ends, but because you finally stop listening, okay? And in that pause between ticks, you fall not just into sleep, but into the rhythm of a world that moves even when you don't. Asterisk sleep in 1850 is not silent. It is layered, woven, alive. It is crickets in the walls, mice in the rafters, whined under the door. It is a lullaby made of everything that never rests. Sleep is the act of joining them, okay? Of breathing in time with the unseen. You hear the fire's last breath, a crackle, then ash, then hush. You hear your father's cough through the wall. It's the deep creak of the house settling into itself. Each sound is a reminder you are not alone. Even when no one speaks, the air moves. You feel it on your cheek. Cool, damp. It smells of dirt and pine and smoke. It carries the past. It carries tomorrow. You breathe it in and it anchors you, makes you heavier, makes your thoughts slower. DROWSI. In 1850, sleep isn't guaranteed. It is earned. It is waited for. It is something you invite, gently, with stillness, with surrender. You don't fight for it. You make space for it, like you would for a guest, an honored one who sometimes doesn't arrive. You close your eyes. You count the breaths. The ones that rise like questions. The ones that fall like forgiveness. You don't ask for dreams, but sometimes they come. Small, strange gifts carried in on the backs of crickets and ghosts. The mattress no longer itches. The cold is part of you now. The blanket breathes. The shadows settle. The clock ticks. Somewhere, a floorboard size hand in this orchestra of ordinary things. Sleep steps in. Quiet, kind, heavy. You don't feel yourself leave. You don't remember the last thought. But when morning comes, soft, gray, and merciful, you will wake and not know how. Only that the night has passed and you were held, not by comfort, but by time. Asterisk in the dead of night. Silence is never truly silent. The world of 1850 hums with sounds you try not to name. A creak from the attic, a knock in the wall. Explanations range from the mundane to the spectral. Floorboards shift without warning, and sometimes footsteps echo when no one walks. These sounds do not ask permission. They arrive like guests from another century, bold and uninvited. Key, you hold your breath, hoping they pass through without noticing. You are not alone. Or perhaps it's better to pretend you are. Spiritualism has begun to take hold in parlors across America. Seances, mediums, and messages from the beyond stir minds already weighed by grief. Death visits homes, often fevers, accidents, childbirthing leaves behind questions too heavy to bury. People begin to believe that loved ones speak through the tapping of tables, the flickering of candles, the movement of curtains. And in the middle of the night, when the candle dies down, even skeptics listen a little closer. In the dark, doubt softens its voice. You wonder if the chill in the room is from a draft or something older. Grandmother used to say the dead visit between midnight and dawn. You laughed as a child, but now her voice replays in the back of your mind. A window creaks open, a finger's width, and you swear the room size. Perhaps it's just wind, you think, or perhaps it's the echo of a sorrow still lingering. You don't believe in ghosts, not really, but you do believe in loneliness, and sometimes they feel the same. The shadows in the corners have their own personalities. Some are content to sit quietly, Others stretch slowly across the wall, like they're listening. Your candle burned out hours ago, and the embers no longer reach the far end of the room. You could light another taper, but you don't. Not out of courage, but out of respect. There are things better seen in dreams than in flame. The darkness is sacred Iravail. You do not lift unless necessary. Some families leave out chairs for the dead, or water by the hearth for a thirsty spirit. You used to think that was quaint superstition, passed down like a lullaby. But tonight, you understand the gesture. It's not fear, it's reverence. It's a silent acknowledgement that the past never leaves completely. It's that the ones who loved us may still walk the hallway, and perhaps they, too, are searching for rest. You pull the blanket tighter around your shoulders, not for warmth, but for reassurance. The weight of it reminds you where you are, alive, awake, present. Whatever walks through this hour does not belong to you. You are simply borrowing this moment in time, sharing it with echoes. Your heart calms slightly, though your ears stay alert. The house, the night, the air itself, none of it is truly still. It never was. When morning comes, the sounds will fade. The boards will stop creaking. The whisper behind the wall will vanish like mist, and no one will speak of it. But tonight, in this chapter of your sleep, you met the voices that rarely speak aloud. You didn't answer. You didn't run. You simply listened. And sometimes, in 1850, that's all the living and the dead can offer each other. Some discomforts whisper louder than others, and in 1850, the language of your skin speaks through itches. The kind that creeps slowly across your scalp like a cautious invader, then erupts behind your knee or along your back. Fleas, lice, and bedbugs are not pests, they're companions. They live beneath your clothes, ride along in your linens, and build small empires in the folds of your garments. They don't knock, they stay. You shift in bed and feel the rough prickle of a bite, red and raised, as familiar as your name. But there is no salve, no relief, just an old wooden comb and patience. People around you share the same plight, so no one complains. To scratch is not shameful. It is a quiet ritual. Entire families huddle near the hearth, picking at each other's scalps, not as vanity, but as care. Intimacy was never clean. It was shared. It isn't just the insects that leave marks. Wool itself is coarse, especially when unwashed. It rubs against your skin like memory, relentless and uninterested in comfort. Linen undergarments, if you have them, offer little reprieve. Itchiness is not an inconvenience. Here it's a constant. part of the body's morning and evening routine, as much as breathing or praying. Some say you get used to it. You never really do. Nights are the worst. You lie still, half asleep, half aware of something crawling. You swat instinctively, but it's never fast enough. It's the movement, the tickle, the stink is enough to wake you. Yet, not enough to justify rising from your barely warm bed. If you try to ignore it, to drift off again, but the bite throbs, pulsing like a secret reminder that comfort is always temporary. Children scratch in their sleep, often breaking skin. You see little fingernail tracks on their arms, red and raw. Mothers dab vinegar if they have it, or whisper prayers if they don't. Old remedies of bound herbs rubbed into the scalp. Ashes boiled into salves, but nothing works for long. The insects return, drawn to blood, heat, and resignation. There, part of the house now, like smoke and creaking floorboards. Even the cleanest homes are never clean enough. You shake out the bedding each morning, only to watch the mattress rise slightly from movement within. Washing requires hours boiling water, scrubbing fabric, hanging it to dry under an indifferent sun. So you prioritize. Not every sheet gets washed. Not every shirt gets rinsed. You sleep in what you can tolerate. The rest you simply endure. When sleep finally comes, it's with a sting. You lie in stillness, layered in wool, blanketed by crawling life, and somehow, despite it all, your body lets go. You dream, briefly and shallowly, before waking with a start and an itch. This is rest in 1815. Not peaceful, but real. And sometimes that's enough. Asterisk, the hearth is both the heart and the lungs of the home. During the day, it is alive, pulsing with orange flame, feeding pots and warming toes. But by night, it softens. The fire dwindles to red embers, sighing ash with every gust of wind through the chimney. Its crackle becomes a whisper, a soft murmur to those still awake. You sit near it, not for warmth, but for companionship. Ash settles like snow across the bricks. The room dims. The glow stretches long shadows across the walls, dancing figures who say nothing but reveal much. The fire was fed all day with wood or dung, depending on wealth. Now, its hunger rests. You wrap your hands around a mug, the last warmth of the evening, and stare into the coals like they might answer something you've never asked aloud. No. One speaks in these final moments before bed. Voices become quiet, less from fatigue and more from reverence. This hour feels sacred. You hear the soft scraping of spoon against clay bowl, the creak of wood as someone shifts on a bench, the last rustle of a blanket being shaken out. These are not chores. They are evening prayers, carried out with ritual precision. The warmth fades slowly. You stretch your feet toward the hearth, knowing the cold will reclaim them soon. Even the cat, who spent the day ignoring you, now curls up, near the warmth, purring into the silence. The room contracts around the heat, as though drawn by its final breath. You do not need a clock. You know what time it is by the language of embers. Soon, someone will cover the coals with ash, preserving them for morning. Fire must be protected. Like a child, starting it from scratch is a chore few wish to repeat. You watch the glowing heart of the room grow faint, like a candle sinking into itself. You wish it good night, not with words, but with your silence. The heat lingers in your bones, even as the air cools. You carry it with you to bed, wrapping it around you like a fragile memory. Tomorrow, the hearth will breathe again. It will boil water, cook porridge, in warm, wet boots. But tonight, it sleeps, and so must you. You whisper your gratitude to the quiet flame and step into the dark behind you. The last coal winks out, and with it, the house exhales. Asterisk, most homes in 1850 do not have locks. Doors close, but rarely seal. They creak inward with every breeze, as though unsure if they should stay shut. Privacy is a luxury. Security is a prayer. Night invites not only sleep, but possibility. Who might wander in, man, animal, or spiritus, left to fate in thin wood? Some wedge a chair beneath the doorknob. Others lean a broom across the entrance, more to make noise than to stop anything. You lie in bed, listening for that sound. The clatter of warning, the jingle of a latch, the hesitant shuffle of something uninvited. You don't expect danger every night, but you prepare for it just the same. The wind tests the hinges, rattling them softly. You tell yourself it's only weather, but stories you've heard resurface of bandits, drifters, neighbors turn desperate. A single knock at midnight chills more than any draft. You whisper a prayer, not to be heard, but to be unseen. Safest path, often, is to go unnoticed. Outside, the world continues. Foxes howl, owls call, and somewhere, footsteps pass too slowly for comfort. Inside, you are still, eyes open, breath measured. A world made of straw and soot does not keep danger out, it merely asks it to wait. And sometimes, it does. Children sleep through it, somehow, their dreams louder than the night's uncertainties. But adults know, always know. You grow attuned to the small shifts of air, the silence that deepens before something arrives. The house listens too. You can feel it holding its breath with you. The absence of a lock does something to the mind. It forces trust, not in wood or bolt, but in hope. Hope that nothing with ill will chooses tonight. Hope that whatever walks these roads is just passing through. Hope that darkness respects a closed door, even if it can open it. And when morning comes and the door remains undisturbed, you thank no one in particular. Just the wind, the night, and the invisible line that was not crossed. Asterisk, the wind in 1850 is not just a breeze. It is a voice, a slow, whispering presence that slides through cracks in your walls and nods your curtains into cold, shivering spirals. It groans against wooden shutters and breathes beneath floorboards, telling stories no one asked to hear. In the silence of night, you listen, not because you want to, but because you must. Each gust is different. Some arrive with purpose, rattling doors and stirring dust from hidden corners. Others drift lazily, curling around your ankles like a cat, unseen but undeniably there. You feel it in your bones before you hear it in your ears. And always, it carries something moisture, cold, the memory of a storm. People say the wind brings news. They aren't wrong. It shifts suddenly, and neighbors murmur about deaths in distant villages, about spirits unsettled. A gust from the east means rain. From the north, it means change. You wrap yourself tighter in your blanket, wondering what the wind wants tonight and whether it will leave you alone. The windows speak when the wind visits, not in words, but in long, aching sighs. Glass panes hum with tension, and shutters clatter like brittle teeth. You learn the difference between a harmless rattle and the sound of something trying to get in. Not everything that knocks is weather. Sometimes it's memory. Sometimes it's regret. Even fireplaces feel the change. The smoke hesitates, curling downward instead of up. The scent of ash grows sharper. The flames bow in one direction, as if in submission. You watch it silently, unsure whether to feed it or let it die. Fire is stubborn, but not immune to fear. It knows when the wind is too strong. You lie awake, feeling each breath of air creep across your skin. The draft under the door is cold enough to feel like fingers. You tell yourself it's just wind, just air, but deep down, you understand nothing that persistent is just anything. The wind knows your name, even if you don't know its language. Eventually, the gusts slow. The house stops groaning. Stillness returns like a blanket, warm but uneasy. You wait a while longer, listening to the silence for cracks. When none appear, you close your eyes, caught because you feel safe, but because you're too tired to care. In the darkness of 1850, shadows are alive. They stretch where they shouldn't, lean against corners like tired strangers, and dance across walls with no music. Candlelight flickers too fast, and the shapes it casts move too slow. Your mind plays tricks, but your body feels the truth before your thoughts do. Shadows appear even when no one enters. You notice them late at night when the fire is almost out and the candle burns low. They gather behind furniture, peek around door frames, and curl beside your boots like forgotten animals. You want to believe they're yours, that they move. When you do, but sometimes they don't. You blink and they stay, still, watching. The room feels full, even when you're alone. You pull the blanket up to your chin, not for warmth, but for protection. There's a kind of stillness that screams, a kind of quiet that is not peace, but pause, waiting for something to begin. Elders say, never stare too long at a corner in the dark. They say some things, stare back. You laugh when the sun is high, when the fire is bright. But now, lying flat, with your ears straining for footsteps that never come, you remember that you were warned. Even the dog refuses to sleep in the room tonight. He stands at the threshold, eyes fixed on something invisible, tail low, ears pinned. You call him, and he doesn't move. Animals? No, they always do. And what they refuse to enter, you should probably leave too. But your legs are frozen beneath layers of fear and wool. You try to focus on breathing, count each inhale, each exhale, but the air feels heavy, like it doesn't want to leave your lungs. The candle sputters, shadows ripple, and then stillness. Again, did it move, or did you imagine it? Maybe you'll never know. You blow out the candle not because you're brave, but because you'd rather not see. Sleep comes eventually, reluctant and shallow. And somewhere behind your closed eyelids, something else waits. Not a dream, a presence, a silence that watches. Asterisk time in 1850 is not counted in minutes. It is measured by feeling, the length of a yawn. The stretch between church bells, the moment when your bones start to ache from stillness, not motion. You live inside time, not above it. And sometimes you don't even know what hour it is. Your house may not have a clock. If it does, it ticks too loudly or not at all. Sometimes the pendulum stops swinging and no one notices for days. What tells time is the sky, the light, and the silence. When the world feels hollow, it's usually around 3 in the morning. That's the hour when dreams fade and fears wake. You lie there, unsure if you've slept or simply closed your eyes for a moment. So there's a kind of darkness that feels deeper, heavier, has weight. You reach for the candle, but hesitate. Do you really want to know what time it is? Or is it better not to look? People say this is the hour when souls speak, when regrets creak across floorboards and old voices echo through pipes. The wind dies down. The embers are gone. Even the crickets take a break. It feels like the whole world forgot to breathe. And you, stuck between sleep and waking, wonder if you've crossed into somewhere else. The walls don't move, but they feel closer. The bed creaks without motion. You try to recall a prayer, but forget halfway through. Your throat is dry. Your skin is cold. You don't dare leave the blanket because beneath it is uncertainty, and above it is awareness. You choose warmth, even if it's not safe. You wait, not for anything in particular, just for the moment to pass, for time to restart, for the invisible clock to remember how to tick. Eventually, the first bird chirps, far away and sleepy. The sky lightens slightly. You're still here. Whatever watched you has stepped back, and the day begins again, as if nothing happened. But you know better. Something always happens at the hour the clocks forget. Asterisk, a mirror in 1850 is not just glass. It's a window with no view, a frozen surface that sees more than it should. You keep it covered at night, not out of superstition, but because it feels like a second pair of eyes. When the fire dies and shadows stretch long across the room, the mirror holds them in place like memories too proud to fade. Some people say mirrors retain the last thing they reflected, and sometimes you feel that might be true. You've walked by and seen yourself blink too slowly or not at all. You shrug it off, but you don't look back. When the wind whistles down the chimney and your candle flickers low, that old mirror leans forward into your thoughts. It seems to lean, anyway. You try to tell yourself it's the light, the angle, the trick of a warped frame on aging plaster, okay? But you know the difference between distortion and intention. Some nights you feel it watching, not from behind you, but from within itself. And no matter how still the house is, something inside the mirror always feels one breath ahead of you. You've tried turning it to face the wall, but mirrors, remember, a day reflect absence as much as presence. Even flipped around, it seems to echo the shape of your body as you pass. You wonder if the past owners of this house stared into it the same way. Did they ask it questions? Did they see their worries crystallize in the glass? Or perhaps they saw nothing at all, and that's what frightened them most. A silent mirror is worse than a noisy one. Silence in the glass suggests the world behind it has learned patience. In the daytime, it's harmless. It reflects light, soft outlines, and the dust that never leaves. But at night, with your back turned to it, your mind plays a different kind of theater. What if you were to glance over your shoulder and your reflection stayed still? What if it smiled when you didn't? You laugh, but the sound feels out of place in the room. Laughter doesn't echo. Here it vanishes, like it's been swallowed whole. You stop smiling and pull the blanket tighter, watching the corner where the mirror rests. The blanket muffles sound, but not thought. You wonder who first decided to drape mirrors in mourning. Is it to protect the dead from seeing themselves, all the living from seeing what the dead leave behind? Either way, you understand the logic now. The mirror doesn't blink, okay? It doesn't sleep. And you, lying there with your eyes squeezed shut, feel its gaze like cold fingers on your forehead. You don't look. You one single quotes. Sometimes in the stillness, you think you hear something tap the glass. Just once, a polite knock, like a question, too shy to ask itself. You wait for another sound, but it never comes. That's worse, somehow. Not the sound, but the refusal to repeat it. You begin to imagine your reflection as a separate self, one that waits for you to drift off before stepping through. The mirror is not a portal, a prison with the bars turned inward. Eventually, sleep arrives, fit for light, like drifting through fog. Hey, and when you wake, the sun will touch the mirror first. It always does. The light bends toward it like an offering. You rise slowly, careful not to look too quickly, as part of you fears the mirror will still be full. Not of your face, but of something that stayed behind. Waiting, asterisk sleeping in 1850, means accepting that you are never truly alone in bed. The mattress, if it can be called, that is a sack of straw, flattened by years of weight and regret. Sighed. Tiny things live and multiply. Fleas, lice, mites all invisible until they bite. And they always bite. There is no moment of peace under the covers, only moments of distraction between one itch and the next. You scratch until your skin burns, then scratch again just to feel something different. You try to sleep facing the wall, but the wall is cold and flakes like old bark. Face the room and the darkness feels too open. You close your eyes and see the crawling shapes beneath your eyelids. It's not creatures, exactly, but movements, suggestions of life just below the surface. Your scalp prickles, your wrists twitch. You lift the blanket and peek, knowing there's nothing to see, just the feeling that you're a bed of skin wearing a coat of insects. People whisper about keeping lavender or herbs near the pillow to ward off pests. You've tried, but the smell fades and the bugs stay. They don't care about old wives' remedies. Came with the house, and they know it better than you do. Okay. They were here before your birth and will be here after your death, nesting in the seams of memory. You are just another warm body, temporary and soft, a hotel with no checkout policy. The whispers begin next. Abba. You don't know where they come from. Maybe the cracks in the floorboards. Maybe the moth-eaten coat in the corner. Or maybe just your mind stretching into the spaces that silence leaves behind. Okay. The whispers aren't words. Not really. More like thoughts, spoken too softly to understand. You catch a breath of them when you roll over too quickly, or when your heart thuds too loud in your ears. It's like someone finishing your sentences without your permission. You've asked others. They pretend not to hear, too, but you see it in their eyes, the way they flinch when the room goes quiet, the way they scratch at nothing. We all share the same bed, in a way. We all lie with the same ghosts, the same discomforts, the same crawling sense that something small is watching from just beneath the quilt. There is no comfort here, only fatigue, so deep that even fear has to wait its turn. Eventually, you itch your way into a kind of sleep, not restful, not complete, just enough. You dream of water, of washing everything away, of burning the bed and sleeping on clean stone. But even in dreams, the itching finds you. It wears your skin like a coat and whispers in your ears like a lullaby. And when you wake, groggy and raw, the pillow smells of sweat and herbs long dead. You sit up slowly, scratching at your wrists, your collarbone, your scalp. In the quiet of the 1850s night, you hear it, the tick, tick, tick of a clock that no one can find. It's not on the mantle. It's not in the hallway. It's not in your room, but it lives there anyway. Its sound doesn't match any timepiece. You own it, echoes inside your skull like a memory you didn't make. You press your fingers to your temples, trying to still it, but it isn't in your ears. It's in your bones, counting seconds no one else acknowledges. Time in this house does not move forward, circles. The clock is old, older than the walls, older than the boards. Some say it was part of the original foundation, a heartbeat trapped in brick and beam. You feel it most when lying still, eyes open, breath shallow. Each tick is not mechanical, but organic, a pulse, a reminder. You are here, and so is it. The hands of the real clocks all stop eventually. The one on your kitchen wall has been frozen at 3:17 for years. No one bothers to reset it. Why should they? Okay. In this house, you measure time by how often you blink, how long your shadow stretches before the moon turns away. The clock beneath the floorboards doesn't care about hours. It marks waiting, dread, anticipation for something unnamed. Sometimes you try to beat it, match your breath to the rhythm, then speed up to confuse it. But the moment you lose focus, ticking returns, slower, deeper. You wonder if it's counting towards something like a metronome for fate. You wonder what happens when it stops. You hope you never find out. Or, worse, you worry you already did. On sleepless nights, the ticking turns into tapping. It moves up the wall like fingers trailing behind a ghost. Not a knock, not a call, just a presence checking in, as if the walls themselves were reminding you they're listening. They always have been. They remember every breath you've taken in this room, every word you whispered into the dark. You try to convince yourself it's nothing, a rodent, the wind, your heartbeat misbehaving again. But even your lies wear thin eventually, and the clock continues, each tick pulling the world tighter around. You like thread on a spool. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but to escape the rhythm. But the rhythm stays. In the morning, there is no sound. Not a tick, not a chime. The house is still. The silence is worse. You search for the sound that kept you company through the night, but it has moved on, not gone, just deeper. Waiting, perhaps, for the next quiet night when sleep drifts thin and your bones remember how to listen. Asterisk, the walls of your room in 1850 are not still. They creak, they sigh, they inhale when you aren't watching. They exhale when you try to pray. The wallpaper peels like old skin, curling at the edges like a warning. You touch it and it curls away further, as if recoiling from your warmth. Some nights you think the house is trying to remember who you aren't failing. You lie in bed and feel a shift, not wind, not weather, a presence. The space contracts and expands with breath, not your own. The floorboards lift slightly, settle again. The rafters groan like old shoulders, adjusting after a century's rest. You've come to expect the house to speak, but it's the silence between its words that disturbs you most. People once called houses like this settling, as if wood and brick had to come to terms with their mortality. But this doesn't feel like settling. It feels like resistance. House is not at peace. It remembers too much. It has seen too many winters, heard too many final breaths, and held too many secrets in its nails and beams. The strange thing is it comforts you. In some twisted way, it feels less lonely to live inside something alive. When the wind howls, the walls answer with groans. When you whisper, the ceiling answers with a soft tap. It's a terrible intimacy, but it's yours. You and the house, breathing together in the quiet curse of sleep, less, and ess. Sometimes, you place your palm flat on the plaster, you feel a pulse. Faint, rhythmic, like a heartbeat buried under memories. You tell yourself it's vibration. Maybe water pipes or the wind. But part of you wonders if the house is trying to soothe you or remind you it's awake. To dot it never dreams. It never rests, simply endures like you do. Perhaps the two of you have made a quiet pact. It won't collapse if you don't, but you both know that one day, one of you will break. The plaster will crack. The bones will fail. And the breath that fills this space will finally be exhaled for good. Until then, the house watches. It breathes when you breathe. It waits when you wait. And when sleep does come, light and unsure, it leans just a little closer as if listening to the rhythm of your lungs, dining whether or not to match them for one more night. Asterisk dreams in 1850 are thick, not featherlight escapes, but syrupy traps, a coat coated in candle wax and echo. You fall asleep, not into peace, but into rooms that don't belong to you. The bed in your dream isn't the bed you sleep in. The window looks out on a place that smells like your childhood, but you've never been there. Dreams don't lie. They confuse. You find yourself walking through a version of your home that is older than you remember. The wallpaper is brighter, the air more pungent, filled with perfume and pipe smoke. You hear footsteps your own and someone else's. But when you turn, the hallway is empty, though warm. Something has just passed. You're sure of it. You reach for a door that should lead to your room, but it opens to a forest of coats, or to a stairwell that spirals down instead of up. The candle in your hand drips onto your wrist, but you feel no heat. You begin to understand the dream isn't yours at all. It was borrowed, or gifted, or inherited from someone who forgot how to wake up. The sound of music filters in soft, strained like it's being played on a broken piano in the next world over. The notes repeat, always wrong, like someone remembering a lullaby they were never taught. You follow the sound, but every step seems to sink deeper. The floor softens. The walls lean inward. The house is folding. Suddenly, you're outside, or inside, pretending to be outside. There are trees in the hallway, roots in the walls, the moon inside the fireplace. You don't question it. That's the rule here. In dream houses, logic is rude. You accept the rain falling upward, the faces in the mirror smiling too wide. You smile back because what else is there to do? You wake with a start, but the smell of candle wax lingers and your hands are warm like they held fire. Your blanket is twisted like you wrestled something. You try to remember the dream, but it scatters leaves behind only an image, a red door you didn't open, and the distinct impression that someone is still dreaming about you as the morning sun stretches through the window. The air feels heavier, not lighter. Dreams in 1850 aren't restful. They're reminders. They don't show you what's possible. Show you what you've forgotten, and await for you each night like a house with a door left unlocked, hoping you'll return. Asterisk, there's a special kind of silence that begins around 2 a.m. in 1850. It is not peaceful. It's profound. The crickets stop. The wind dies. Even the mice seem to pause. You lie in bed and realize you can hear your own pulse in your throat. Every sound that follows will be magnified, no matter how small. This hour is not for sleep. It's for listening. You hear the shift of the beams above, like someone pacing slowly in the attic, but no one lives upstairs. You hear a sigh not yours from just beside your bed, as if the mattress had a memory. You try not to move, afraid your breath will reveal that you're awake. You know that whatever lives in this hour prefers watchers. Two sleepers. Voices come next. Not full words, but syllables stretched like melted glass. They rise and fall like conversation overheard through water. You focus hard, trying to understand, but the more you listen, the less you hear. The voices retreat as soon as you acknowledge them. They exist only in the margins. At 3 a.m., your thoughts slow, but your senses sharpen. Every creak is a sentence. Every footstep, a question. You begin to interpret sounds like language. The groan of the floorboard says, remember, a dite. Tap of the window says, not yet. The flicker of the candle says, still here. You believe them because belief is safer than doubt. Sometimes something falls. A book, a spoon, a thought. You don't check. You've learned not to. The house is rearranging itself. Or maybe the night is. Your job is not to interfere, just to witness. You are an audience to your own uncertainty. You are part of the script, but not the narrator. When you finally drift to sleep, it is not because the sounds have stopped, but because they've begun to feel familiar. At 3 a.m., fear becomes ritual. The strange becomes expected. Cool. Fall asleep to the rhythm of something walk in the hallway, slowly, patiently, as if it has all the time in the world. And maybe it does. In 1850, clocks mean little. Time still flows soft, dark, and circular. And 3 a.m. always returns, like a story that forgot to end. You lie in bed, waiting to hear what it says next. When dawn finally comes in 1850, it doesn't announce itself. It seeps like a secret. It slips through the cracks in the shutters and tiptoes across the floor like someone afraid to wake you. The light is pale, unsure of itself, filtered through dust and sleep. You blink and the room looks unchanged, but something has shifted. The darkness is no longer alive. It has retreated, just out of reach. Your body aches from lying still too long. The mattress has memorized your shape. You rise slowly, limbs complaining, muscles tight like rope in damp air. You're not rested, not really. But the house is quieter now, as if pretending to be innocent. You listen for the ticking, the whispers, the breath behind the wall. But for now, all is still. The fire has gone out. The coals are cold. You wrap yourself in a blanket. though it smells of sleep and fear. The floor is cold underfoot, but familiar. You know where the creaks are, where to step. The room, despite everything, feels more yours now. You survived another night. That's enough. The mirror is fogged, as if trying not to show you too much. The house stretches its beams like bones waking up. Somewhere, a rooster calls not in joy, but out of obligation. The world begins again, not with fanfare, but with the sigh of a world that never really slept. The night left fingerprints, but no confession. As you pour a basin of water to wash your face, you see your reflection, finally, eyes swollen, skin pale, but alive. You're here. The ghosts didn't take you. The bugs didn't feast. The house didn't crack open and swallow you whole. You made it. And in 1850, that's what morning means. It's not hope, just continuation. You step outside and the sky is blue. It's blue, as if the night never happened. But you know better. You carry it with you in the itch on your ankle, in the whisper stuck behind your ear, in the knowledge that sleep is never safe, just temporarily surrendered. But you'll return tonight. You always do, because in 1850, sleep is not rest. It's rehearsal. And morning isn't relief. It's a reset. The crickets will sing again. The fleas will gather. The walls will sigh. And you'll lie down once more beneath blankets heavy with memory, waiting for the night to remember your name again. Asterisk. So, you made it through the night, through the fleas and the fireless hearth. Through the ticking clock no one remembers, winding through the blanket that felt more like a cage than comfort. You lay awake with crickets singing lullabies and ghosts pressing against the walls. You endured the scratching, the groaning wood, the sighing floorboards, and the silence that wasn't silent. You dreamed someone else's dream. You woke in a house that still remembered every breath you took. And though your body is sore and your eyes heavy, you're still here in 1850. Sleep was never about peace. It was survival, dressed in stillness. And yet, somehow, people slept. Children curled beside goats. Mothers hummed against the dark. And even the walls, weary of time, rested just enough to do it all again tomorrow. Asterisk if you're still with me. Thank you for wandering through the night with quiet curiosity as you lay down in your modern bed with clean sheets, a soft mattress, warm air, and running water. Perhaps offer a small moment of gratitude for the comforts we rarely notice. No rats beneath the floor, no lice in your sleeves, no shadows whispering in your sleep. Only quiet, only rest. Now close your eyes. Let the crickets fade. Let the walls forget your name. And let the ghosts turn elsewhere for company. You've earned this sleep. Asterisk if this journey into the strange and sleepy past brought you comfort, calm, or simply company. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. There's always another strange bedtime waiting, another era, another sound, another silence to explore together. Another story is appearing on your screen right now, softly, slow leads, just like sleep. Until next time, good night.